All right, good afternoon, everybody.
Afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Welcome to the May 31st meeting of the Boston Art Commission. My name is Karen Goodfellow, and I'm the Director of Public Art in the Mayor's Office of Arts and Culture. In that capacity, I'm also the Director of the Boston Art Commission. Let's just take a moment for all of us to update our names and our pronouns and make sure we are muted. In accordance with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Executive Order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, we are conducting this meeting virtually. To ensure public access to the deliberations of the Boston Art Commission, the public can join this meeting through telephone and video conferencing. For those of you with us today, this meeting is being recorded and closed captioning is available. You can access it at the bottom of the screen. If you have any trouble locating the button or if it's not working for you, please chat us for assistance. The Mayor's Office of Arts and Culture and the Boston Art Commission believe that public art is any artwork installed in publicly accessible spaces where they can be experienced by everyone for free. We engage in discussions about public art in Boston in order to foster the creation and collection of artworks that reflect the people, ideas, histories, and futures of Boston, which is on the traditional homeland of the Massachusetts people. We acknowledge the continuing presence of the Massachusetts as well as the Wampanoag and Nipmuc peoples. We also recognize Indigenous people represented in the city's residents, in addition to those in the diaspora. For transparency and community input, artworks proposed for City of Boston property are reviewed and discussed at these public meetings of the Boston Art Commission on a regular, usually monthly basis. Working together with the public art team and the Mayor's Office of Arts and Culture, the BAC is an independent board composed of 2 ex officio and 7 volunteer community members appointed by the mayor. The BAC has exclusive authority to approve and commission artworks intended to be added to the city's collection or placed on city property. Our meetings are generally held the second Tuesday of the month, although both today and our next meeting on Tuesday, June 28th do not fit that pattern. We do not currently have a meeting scheduled for July, but are planning on meeting at our regular day in August, and we hope you'll continue to join us. The Mayor's Office of Arts and Culture has a dedicated public art team that manages all daily operations and duties related to public art projects cited on or proposed for City of Boston property. This team facilitates the Boston Art Commission's monthly public meetings and manages all phases of Boston's public art projects in collaboration with the Boston Art Commission, community members, and colleagues at the City of Boston. Helping to facilitate this meeting today are Sarah Rodrigo, Senior Public Art Project Manager, and Amber Torres, Public Art Project Manager, as well as Liza Quinones, Mural Consultant. And please reach out to us with any questions.
Okay, thank you, Karen. Welcome, everyone. I'm calling this public hearing to order at 4:36 p.m. Today, the Boston Art Commission will be holding its monthly public meeting. I will now take a roll call of the commissioners to confirm a quorum. After I state your name, commissioners, please say here. I'll begin with Vice Chair Aqua Holmes.
Here.
I believe Camilo Alvarez is not here. John Andrus.
Here.
I believe Michael Canizzo is not here. Cara Elliott Ortega.
Here.
I know Robert Freeman is not here. Brian Hone.
Here.
And Kim Pender.
Here.
Great, so we do have a quorum. On the next slide, you will see today's agenda. The full agenda is posted publicly on the city's website, boston.gov. We'll now review the meeting minutes from the May 10th meeting of the Boston Art Commission. Are there any comments or modifications any commissioner would like to make at this time? There was a little bit of confusion. Some of you may not have been able to get it in the folder sent to you, and you might have just received it recently via email. I did notice one typo, Sarah. I sent that to you via email. I think somehow there was a autocorrect that said married instead of motion passed or something like that. It was an unusual autocorrect. Any comments from commissioners? Okay, if not, I will entertain a motion to accept the minutes.
I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes as presented for our last meeting of May 10th, 2022.
Okay, great. So I'll go through the roll call, and if you agree with the motion, please say yes. Aqua,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Kara,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Kim,
Yes.
and I'm a yes as well. So the motion passes. Next up, I'll pass it on to Karen.
Thanks, Mark. We have 6 presentations for review today. The first 3 are all proposed for different sites in East Boston. The Harvest Mural and Art Program 2022 is proposed by Harbor Arts, Eastie Farm, and the Boston Public Schools for sites at the Mario Umana Academy and Manassa E. Bradley School. Apologies on pronunciation of the names. Constelación de Historias by artist Rene Dongo and Brittany Thomas, proposed for the Mary Ellen Welch Greenway. And Safe Passage by artist and now in their Accelerator, Rhea Vedro, proposed for LoPresti Park. We will have a brief break and then 3 more presentations. Raining Poetry, a short-term citywide text-based project proposed by Boston Public Health Commission and the Office of Recovery Services. And Her Glamorous Spotlight, a mural in Austin celebrating the life and legacy of Rita Hester by Rixy and proposed by the City of Boston. And the final design for Deep Time Stories of Jamaica Plain by Cristina, Parreño, Alonso, and Amin Tadj for Hyde Square in Jamaica Plain. We have 2 updates to share about community-initiated commissions. After some delays, we were able to move forward with the fabrication and installation contract for Bookmarked at the Mattapan branch of the Boston Public Library, as well as paying to complete the fabrication of the legacy of Frederick Douglass. You can see photos of 2 of the 3 full-scale figures that accompany the portrait of Douglass: Black suffragist Frances Ellen Watkins Harper and Douglass's son and soldier, Lewis Henry Douglass. The 4th full-scale figure not shown is a portrait of Douglass reading as a child. And I think it's really exciting to see those. We've been watching these develop for so long. It's really beautiful to see them. Now we'll review long-term city-initiated public art projects. As you can see on the right, Memory Diffusion by Masari for the Boston Arts Academy is well underway. The top photo is a lighting test of the echoes that accompany the LED display. The artwork installation will be completed in late June. Earlier this month, you approved the final design of Turmoil by Sobek for the Roxbury branch of the Boston Public Library, moving that project from design into the fabrication phase. And 2 more projects, Deep Time Stories of Jamaica Plain and Her Glamorous Spotlight, are seeking final design approval tonight. We had approved the design for Soledad by Marca 27, Victor Quinones, at our last meeting, and we are preparing to present that mural at next week's South End Landmark District Commission's meeting, which is happening June 7th at 5:30. We'll add information about that meeting to the chat. We have the public notice for the Landmarks Commission, which Amber just added. And you can see we're very early on the agenda. We're the first design review, so we really would appreciate your attendance. We'll also add there, we have a tiny URL that takes you to a Google form where you can add some testimony, and we're really looking for support here. I was at Washington Manor just this afternoon with Victor, and those are some photos from the community meeting we held there with residents, and it was really wonderful. And we got a lot of great support from staff at BHA and really from the residents, and really truly appreciated how excited they are to bring this mural to the South End. And we look forward to a conversation with the broader South End community at that meeting and do hope you will join. And I do think as many of you who could be there, it would be helpful. And continuing this month's updates, both the Malcolm X Park basketball court murals and paint box program are in the artist review phase, and we look forward to bringing those forward for review at the next BAC meeting. For collections projects, the Emancipation Group will be 3D scanned next week in accordance with this commission's vote to remove the artwork from public view. We have hired a collections photographer as well, Olivia Moon Blaisdell, who is photographing works in the existing collection for our database. Daedalus is completing 4 conservation projects in the next month. The Copenhagen Fountain in Dorchester, which is in poor condition, will be cleaned, stabilized, reset, and repatinated. 3 works by the artist Fern Cunningham will be cleaned and conserved. While not in as bad condition as the Copenhagen Fountain, conserving these works will now extend their life and keep the bronze in good shape. We are also looking into renewing the house doctor contract for 2nd year and reviewing the collections audit submitted by Daedalus to determine the next works to be cleaned, repaired, and conserved. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Karen. We will now move on to items on the agenda for review, public testimony, and commission vote. Here's how you can participate in today's meeting. During the meeting, please keep yourself muted. If you have technical difficulties during the meeting, you can ask questions in the chat and a member of staff will help you. You can also let staff know that you have other questions in the chat directly. We're here to listen and learn from each other. Please be respectful in any comments you make. The first presentation for review is the Harvest Mural and Art Program 2022. Matthew Pollack from Harbor Arts and artist Felipe Ortiz will be presenting.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here again and present another mural project in partnership with Eastie Farm and Boston Public Schools. So Harvest Mural and Art Program came together after the success of Seawall's Boston in 2020 and 2021. We were reached out, Boston Public Schools reached out to us with strong interest to continue the program of bringing murals to our public schools in East Boston. So we've been collaborating together with Eastie Farm to create a program where the kids at the schools can participate in hands-on farming activities and workshops that will eventually be translated into murals at the schools. So I'll talk a little bit about what that looks like. Next slide. So through the project, we're already working with schools. We have classes happening at Umana and at the Bradley School. What you're seeing here is some workshops that we did last fall with Bowseat Ocean Awareness Programs. These are similar. We are working with the students at the schools to get the kids' hands in the soil, learning about planting, learning where food comes from, learning about sustainability, and the difference between processed food and organic food. And we've been at the farms once or twice a week, depending on the school. And these activities are going to be paired with art workshops also at the school, joined by professional artists who will be painting the murals. And the ideas that the kids create, expressing their ideas creatively through arts activities that they learned at Eastie Farm. We're going to take those ideas and have professional artists translate those concepts into professional murals at the schools. So we have 2 murals at the Bradley School in Orient Heights and 1 mural at the Umana Academy. So next slide, please. Why farming in East Boston? We have partnered with Eastie Farm because after the success of Seawalls, a lot of people asked us, what's something that people can do about this? And we wanted to promote something that's actively happening in East Boston to combat climate change, to combat food insecurity in our community, and get neighbors connected with each other through the activities of farming together in East Boston. So we are working with Eastie Farm to create these programs, and the kids are actively, already doing this work at the schools. So this is something that we're really excited about, and the kids are really excited to see their ideas come to life in the murals. Next slide, please. So this is a little bit of what the project will look like. We're already in the midst of the hands-on activities at Eastie Farm. As I said, those will lead right into artist-led workshops at those schools. We'll have, through arts activities, a youth-driven ideation process with artists and the students, that those concepts that come out of the imaginations of the kids at the schools will be translated into designs by the artists within the next couple of weeks. And then at the end of the school year, June 23rd, we'll have a family block party at the schools. So participating artists, Felipe Ortiz is joining me today, and he can talk about some of the artists that we chose for this project. Felipe?
Hello, and thank you very much for your time, everyone. We're definitely very excited to bring artists of this level to Boston and add to the collection of murals here in the city. We're definitely looking at artists that could share their vision very well with the Latin American community that we see in Boston. And as the two visiting artists, we have 3 artists in total, and 2 of the visiting artists are coming from Colombia. One of them, Gleo.
Can we go to the, sorry, it's Felipe. Can we go to the next slide?
So Gleo is a Colombian artist who has now participated extensively internationally in Europe, Latin America, and here in the United States. Last year, she's the recipient of the Abbey Mural Prize given by the National Academy of Design last year. And in previous years, in 2018, she completed the biggest mural done by a single female in the United States, which was in Wichita, Kansas. And so we're very grateful for her time and her interest in coming to Boston, and we're very, very excited to bring her to this project. You can definitely see her work online, as her name is Gleo. And yeah, we're very, very excited to have her talent here in Boston. Next slide, please. The second artist is Gris Juan, also from Colombia. He has also traveled extensively internationally. He shares the idea, I think, of urban farming, and himself also being from a rural part of the country. Shares this idea of the process that we are doing through the Harvest Mural Project. And we are very excited to have him here as well. He will be painting at the Bradley School, along with our other artist, who is our local artist. Next slide. And Jenny Create Jenny has been painting now and beyond, mostly Massachusetts. And we're also very excited to have her join this team of artists. And she also has participated now in some of the workshops that started at the Bradley School. And this week, as the artists arrive to Boston, we'll be joining also this workshop so they can integrate with the students and be able to translate these ideas into their sketches that will finally go up on the walls. So yeah, it's a very colorful and definitely very talented group of artists, and we're excited to have them and welcome them here to the city, and to add this to this wonderful collection that we have going on.
Thank you, Felipe. So next, I'll just talk about the walls. This will be pretty quick, but we'll just take a look. Next slide. So this is the wall at Mario Umana Academy. It's tough to show this wall in a single photograph because of its shape, but here we have the Google Street View. So this wall is actually the outside of a stairwell. So it's rounded, and the wall is, Felipe, correct me if I'm not wrong, I believe the wall is about 50 feet high and 30 feet around if it was stretched out. So this wall will be given to Gleo. It is directly across the street from where the kids are doing the farming workshops at the Umana school. So you can see her wall from the plot in the garden where kids are planting. And this is creating a really incredible opportunity for the kids to kind of have that, just really connect all the dots with what they're planting in the mural. So next slide, please. These are the two walls, and forgive me, the bottom wall on the left-hand side is slightly confusing, but we'll be painting the blue sections of the walls at the Masana Bradley School. So there are several blue sections. The artist has been given the choice to spread the mural around to cover as many of the blue sections as she would like. Well, the section that is not painted blue here, seen as gray, that because of the slope will not be continuing the mural there, but our plan is to use the background color of the artist's choice to create continuity and cover up the industrial wall that's there. So we will just be using rollers to roll out that color on the wall. On the right-hand side, you could see that we're assigning this wall to Gris one, and this is a retaining wall at the entrance to the school parking lot. So this is a heavily traffic, heavy foot traffic area there, and this wall is very long. I think it's over 100 feet long and about 8 feet tall at its tallest point. So we won't need any heavy industrial equipment here, but we'll be cleaning up the wall and then painting a mural. The artist has expressed that they will be, when we have the design concepts to share with you, we will see a story being told as you walk along the wall. As you walk around this wall, you have the opportunity to see the mural reveal itself as you walk down the road. So there will be a story told as you pass the full wall walking down the street at Faywood. Next slide, please. So this is the project timeline, and you can see we're already well into the farming workshops. As I mentioned, artists are arriving in the next week, and we will be working with the artists and the students, continuing their farming workshops and also incorporating art workshops. And on June 10th, we will have a field day at the Bradley where we will be sharing all of the projects with the students' parents. Mural painting will begin around the 13th and will be completed on the 23rd with a block party at the schools. We are asking that we're requesting a BAC, a staff review of the final designs before they are painted at the schools. Due to the timeline and the artists traveling from far distances, this was our best approach to allow for the artists to have an opportunity to work with the students, to meet them and have their murals influenced by the ideas and the conversations that happen with the students at the schools. So this timeline, if we can have a submitted for staff review, final designs, which of course approved by the school, would allow for that to happen in that format. Next slide. So this is the project team, Felipe, myself, and Kanan Tiruvengadam. We also have been having an amazing collaboration with the teachers and the principals at the school. It's been a really beautiful experience where the schools have just embraced this project in such a huge way. They've raised even additional money for the project to be sustainable and have the opportunity to continue in the future. So we're really excited that we've got such a big team and that the team is comprised of members of school staff this year. Next slide. So this is just some photos of you know, what it's looked like in the past with seawalls. You know, the kids have always been super stoked, really excited about the murals and being able to participate in the project, really get hands-on with drawing and painting, and in this case, planting. And so we're just thrilled to bring these murals to these two schools this year, which is a pilot for future years. We're hoping, as well as the Boston Public Schools and Eastie are hoping, that this is going to be a project that we can see year after year in East Boston, and eventually bring murals to all of our schools. So thank you, and I'm hoping for your support.
Great. Well, thank you.
do
Very
believe
exciting
we have-
initiative.
Yes.
Sorry.
Sorry, I was just adding in, I do believe we have a few folks who have joined us. We've reached out to the community and have heard resounding support for this project. We've shared with neighbors both in Orient Heights and around Eagle Hill and the greater Maverick area that this project is happening, and have received a great deal of excitement. So I think a few folks have joined us today to express some positive input.
Okay, great. We are running a little low on time, but could we, maybe one or two members of the community would like to say something very brief, please? Sal?
Good afternoon. My name is Sal Matina. I am a abutter to the school, and today, actually, I was walking by the school and I saw Matt, who I'm a big fan of. I think he does great work in East Boston, and they were working with the kids. And the first time walking by the school, I actually saw kids at the outdoor classroom. I just want to go on record in support of this project. I think it's really good. I talked to some of the teachers today, and there's some big excitement at the Bradley School for this project.
Great,
Thank you. For your
Thank you, Sal.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for weighing in. Are there other members of the community that want to say a word? Very brief. Again, we're running low on time. If not, I will open it up to some questions from commissioners. First, I would like to ask a question, Karen. How would staff review work on a project like this where we're not seeing the
Yeah,
result before it happens? That's an unusual request.
I'll say this is the first I'm hearing of that. So I wasn't aware, Matt, that you'd be making that request here.
Sorry
So
about that. To clarify.
I can't speak to exactly what the process would be. Generally, we would just ask them to come into our next meeting on June 28th. So Matt, can you remind us of what your timeline is?
Yes, and my apologies. And just for clarification, I think what we're looking for is similar to the way that we worked at last year's review. Because of the nature of our project, bringing in artists to paint murals internationally, and wanting their work to be influenced by their experience here in Boston. Our mural start time is very close to when they arrive in Boston due to budget. So we will be providing designs that can be shared with the commission. And we just won't, because of our timeline being so quick, due to that travel, as I had mentioned, we won't be able to present at a meeting due to the calendar of when the BAC's meetings are held. So we are requesting that.
Can you just tell us what the timeline is?
Sure. At June 10th, the artists are having their final workshop at the schools. So we intend to share their sketches or concepts with the BAC by June 10th. And those will be visual representations of their plans.
And Karen, if I may add, we've also shared with the artists what the concept is, and so far every step of the way, including the workshops that we've done so far. And Jenny, for example, has already attended one of the workshops. And as the artists will get here, they have preliminary sketches, but they're not in a way presentable as for this meeting. But as soon as they share and are
Do you
able
have
to
them?
themselves.
Could you share them now? Do you have them on you, like even sketches? Because we got a lot of, last year, we had a lot of concerns shared by community members that they didn't know about the projects going forward. So I think we just want to make sure that we're sharing now at a community meeting, whatever you do have, even if it's not perfect, we totally understand that it's a process, but if you have something, maybe we can just share it.
I can, but I wouldn't be comfortable explaining it. I would rather have the artist explain this part of the sketch. And then again, I feel like we want to give the artist the freedom to connect with the student, be able to translate that idea like while they're here.
Yeah.
I'll just say on my end, I had multiple community meetings after your process last year, hearing from folks that they were very uncomfortable with not being brought in earlier. So I will just share that is something we heard from multiple groups of community members at multiple community meetings.
Yeah, we did learn about the concerns that arose from the Maverick Landing Community Center, and we'll certainly be sharing this process with them as well. We've been working with community members on this project, the schools, as well as other community leaders. We will be doing diligence based on last year's feedback to share the project with the community, let people know what's coming to the schools.
I think one of the difference from last year also is that while working with the school system this year, through their newsletters and community meetings, they've also informed the public about our project. And so it's not a surprise, and people are well aware. It's just not the final designs yet.
Yeah, the process of working with the community has been much different this year.
Great. I think if you could share those draft designs, then I'd be more comfortable on a staff level approving them if I knew the public and the commissioner saw it.
So
Yes,
maybe
we will be
could
sharing
I
those.
suggest something now that we put this on hold for a portion of this meeting and we come back and add it
Sure.
into the sequence? Would
Great.
that?
Yeah, and maybe if you guys can email those to us, we can prepare those to put out
Add
toward
them
the end of the
into
meeting.
slideshow a little bit later today, and we can move on
Yeah.
to the next presentation and then perhaps come back and see those, and then we can talk about a motion.
Are there any other comments regarding this besides the sketches?
Well, I can open it up to commissioners. Any comments from commissioners?
Well, just to say that I think that we have to do due diligence and see something before we sign off on it. So I'm happy that you guys can prepare the slides and have them shown at this meeting. But your process, your project seems really community-centered, youth-centered, looks really exciting and colorful. And I see hands up, so I'll stop there.
Kim, I see your hand is up.
Yeah, I just want, my question before all the other things about the approved designs entered into this conversation was really a little bit more details on how the community was going to be included. It just said that they would be included in painting, but I guess I had just some logistical concerns about what parts of the design would be open to the community because people can't get on scaffolding and, things like that, like just
Correct.
a little bit of the details of engagement.
Yeah, to clarify, we aren't going to have members of the community painting. The murals are going to be installed by the artists that design them. These are professional muralists, and the community involvement in the design process is with that youth ideation process that we talked about. So during these workshops, we're combining the farming workshops with art workshops. So kids are expressing their ideas creatively about what they've learned at Eastie Farm. And the artists are there with the students and will be translating those ideas from the students into professionally designed murals that the artists will install.
Okay, thank you. I'll have follow-ups when we revisit this about, your plans on how to adjust designs that will be kind of generated during the process, changes to these basic ones or whatever.
Great, Cara?
I think relatedly, a quick question is, are the workshops with students, are those being done by teaching artists or full-time teachers in art programs at the school? Who's facilitating that piece?
So the farming workshops are being taught by Eastie Farm. They're climate educators here in East Boston. I'm sure you're maybe have heard of them. And the art workshops, we have a teaching artist that's coming this Friday to do a workshop at the Bradley School and the Umana School. And then we have all of the artists who are painting their murals joining workshops as well. So I don't know if they have, qualifications specifically as teaching artists, but we're working with educators and art teachers at the school to create arts activities with the students. And then the artists that are involved with the project are also joining those workshops.
Okay, great. And then my only other comment is just that it would be great to, separate from the artwork approval, make sure that we're coordinated on just your communications in general. I think it would be really nice to make sure that the comms folks at the city are connected and can help just amplify what's going on as you're having things going up in real time. So maybe we can just connect on that outside of the Art Commission also.
Sure, thank you.
And I have one last comment to myself. The third wall appears to be in tough shape in terms of environmental effects, probably from water damage or other things. Are you taking some measures to make sure that the piece will last a long time on that surface?
We are, yes. And we are prepping that wall prior to the artist's arrival. It's been sealed, primed. Once it's painted, it would also be sealed and to elongate the life of the mural, yes.
Okay, great. All right, so why don't we table this? Karen, would you want to put it towards the end or in the next, what would be enough time for us to, or for the staff to get that material into the?
Well, we can communicate with the artist and see what they have for their preliminary sketches as well. I know of one sketch so far, and Jenny has also participated.
Why don't we put you back towards the end? If that works for you, you can come back at the end of our session. Should be a little bit after 6.
Sure. I just would like to clarify, just as that part of the process is to have the artists design their murals with the students, and they haven't had the opportunity to do that yet. They have preliminary concepts, but these will be adapted.
I think that's what we'd like to see, is the preliminary concepts, and then we can have a discussion. And
that's
And I think we understand that they might change over time.
Is the reason that it's timed the way it is because you want it during the school year? Are you trying to get these completed before the end of June? Is that? Yes,
we are completing, the murals are being completed in alignment with the last day of school. So, and that was something that the school wanted to see, and that it worked well with the timeline for the visiting artists. So, that was a choice that we made together with the schools.
Okay, great. Well, we'll see you guys later in the meeting. Thank you again for the, this is a great topic. We just need to go through our process as well. So I hope you understand that. On our next presentation, then we have, let's see, Constelación de Historias for the East Boston Greenway. The artist Rene Dongo and Brittany Thomas will be presenting.
Thank you guys so much for having us. My name is Rene Dongo.
My name's Brittany. Thank you.
We're so happy to be here. Constelación de Historias literally translates to Constellation of Stories. And what you're seeing right now is a culmination of kind of our project. In the pandemic, we were able to work with 30 residents and 10 young people, and we were trying to figure out a way to make public art with them when we were all separate. So we worked together to come up with this idea of pen pals and having them write to each other using prompts that are drawing prompts or writing prompts, and getting to know each other, getting to know their neighbors, and having fun doing so. It was a great kind of connection point for a lot of folks during this pandemic. And this moment is during the summer where we were able to get together in public spaces along the Greenway and around East Boston to record these letters that they wrote to each other, and then to kind of add on to that and have them have a conversation about what it means to be from Eastie. And so this is the basis of our mural project. Next slide, please.
Thank you. So we worked with our youth producers to take like an hour or sometimes more long tape of a letter exchange and conversation and edit it down to a 5-minute story that sort of encapsulated their conversation. And it was really hard to do because the stories were funny and beautiful and complex. But we did that, and they now live in a digital home on a webpage for Constelación de Historias. Here you see there's both the audio version as well as a transcript in English and Spanish, and some of the illustrations that were sent back and forth in envelopes throughout Eastie. Next slide, please.
Cool. So this is the site map. You can tell from the T that it is next to the Maverick Square station on the blue line. So if you walk down, that's where the Greenway begins. And we'll have 4 locations, starting with the blue caboose and then kind of ending up at the immigrant grandmother's mural, which is honoring Eastie moms, Eastie mothers. And our project hopes to kind of be right next to that, speaking in reality to like a more updated version of the residents in that space, and kind of speaking to community. Next slide, please.
Yeah, so what we're proposing is a temporary installation at each of these sites, which will be a wheat pasted image, large scale image that is either a portrait or a documentary image that was taken at the time of the recording. And so in this one, you can see Sammy and Marcos, and we picked this location of the Blue Caboose because their recording happened would be just behind us if we were sitting there today. And Sammy's here on the call. Hi, Sammy. Thank you for being here.
Hello.
Hello. Sammy and Marcos had this really beautiful exchange about what it means to be a father, what it means to move to a new place. And we want to honor them here at the Blue Caboose. Next slide, please.
So you see, this is a close-up of like what we would put next to the photo. It would include a quote. So if somebody wanted to just kind of see what this story was about, there would be a short kind of snippet alongside a QR code, which would lead you to the page where you could listen to the full story. It tells you when it was recorded, so you can kind of you can grasp potentially at what point in the pandemic this occurred. Yeah, I'll go with next slide on that one. Thank you.
So our second site is at a bulletin board that it already exists on the Greenway, but is sort of underutilized. It doesn't have a whole lot bringing it to life at this moment, but we would love to put another kind of documentary image that was taken on Cottage Street in East Boston. This is Jose and Maria Eugenia talking about all kinds of things, including all the babies that were born during COVID. Very funny story, very awesome story. And there would also be a link to the site so that the public could access the full collection of stories. Next slide, please.
So this is under the bridge there. The left side of the mural would have these portraits. These are participants that after recording a conversation would just stand and get to take a nice photo. And in reality, it's getting the chance to put these faces up and direct people to their stories. And these are stories about what it means to be resilient as a young person going through high school, trying to get through Zoom classes, or it could be about thinking through what it means to like have to exist in East Boston in a more positive way, hoping for a new future after this pandemic. And there's a lot of kind of these conversations that happen. And that quote that's right in the middle is in Spanish, and it translates to "I love East Boston," and because it really has heart. And I think that's one of the big things that we ended up talking about, was kind of the human element of East Boston. And so you can see the height, it's fairly large. And I'll go to the next slide so you can see the second part of it.
So yeah, this is to the right-hand side of the grandmother's mural. It is a photo of Daniel and David that was taken a bit farther down the Greenway, nearer to the end where the library is. And their story is about the legacy of their fathers. And below we have 3 of the illustrations that were done by participants in the project. And we'll give you a close-up on the next slide.
And these are pretty neat pieces. I think Gabby Barroso did the first one, Nick Shea did the second one, and another young person did the third one. And these are all kind of drawings that folks sent to each other, which I think makes it even more special. These like quotes and these things that folks were talking about were from one person to another person, residents talking to each other. And we're going to be pasting these onto the facade there. Yeah, and we can go next slide.
We want to give a big shout out to partners who brought this to life over like many years. But we started this project initially back in 2018, and then it had sort of a second season that began essentially in March of 2020. And we worked with el Centro Cooperativo de Desarrollo y Solidaridad, CCDS, who is also here with us tonight, and Pueblo Coalición, on both inviting people to participate and be writers, and also in that editorial process of figuring out, like, from these hours and hours of tape, like what were the golden nuggets that we wanted to pull out. So they were huge, like, thank you so much for being a part of that. And then more recently, we've been working with the Mary Ellen Welch Greenway, shared this concept with them, and they were supportive of the idea of bringing these stories to public space along the Greenway. And also want to thank NIFA for financial support of this project through the Creative City program. Next slide, please.
So we're hoping to install this in the middle of July, and to take it down on December 10th. It is a fairly large wall that we're hoping to kind of clean up a little bit and make sure that we can install painting kind of this white background and pasting over it, pasting over it. And we live and we work around this specific area, so we will be in proximity and always checking it for as it kind of will deteriorate over time, as it is paper, but we're hoping to kind of make sure that we are giving it that care that it needs in order for it to be honoring the folks that we're presenting there. So making sure that if it needs to be recovered, we can do that, making sure that the QR codes are correct, and we'll be printing out like stickers to kind of replace those if or when they get kind of scratched up, and that's kind of our hope. Yeah. So
thank you so much.
Thank you for the presentation and a fascinating idea about storytelling too. I want to open it up to commissioners to see if you have any questions or comments to make.
Just from a care standpoint, first of all, thank you for your presentation. I love the idea. Is there a way to seal the pieces in so that they don't deteriorate as quickly?
Yes, I think we can be able to kind of add a sealant to it. I think one of the big things is to make sure that we don't seal it too well that we can't take it down.
Right.
But yes, agreed. Yeah.
Yeah. And do you have a strategy for taking it down? Is it like a steaming thing or just peeling or?
Yeah, we should be able to remove it with like warm soap and water, but there's also pressure washing if need be. And we've done some test wheat paste, which we were able to remove. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Other questions?
I
from-
just had one question. And maybe Sarah, if you could go back, I think it was 2 slides to that installation shot. The kind of like, so the prompts here. So for example, draw something, maybe move forward one. So the prompts like draw something you miss. To me, those, if I were walking past that, that almost kind of looks like an invitation to participate. And so I don't know if, you know, that's maybe just something to be kind of aware of. It looks like a drawing that somebody could kind of do. So just being kind of conscious of if you're welcoming that kind of participation or not.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Very good point. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think in the spirit of the project, we'd be like,
Yeah.
something cool could be added, right? Obviously, we want that to be also honoring the work that is already there, but that's a good point. That's a good question.
Okay, if there are no other comments from commissioners, I'll see if anyone from the public would like to say something or make a comment. Kate is also giving you some recommendations. Oh, Michelle.
Hi, everyone. I'm Michelle with the Friends of the Mary Ellen Welch Greenway, and we've been meeting with Rene and Brittany over the past few months, and they've presented at the Greenway Council meetings, which is a general community meeting for the public in East Boston to attend. And folks are very excited about this project, and just we hear every time we do an art project, you know, temporary or permanent, how excited everyone is to see some change on the Greenway. So residents are very excited to see an art project come to the Greenway this summer.
Great, thank you. Any other comments from the public?
I
Rene?
have one suggestion that you might do, going back to Brian's comment about the prompt sheets. You could make them downloadable, you know, from your QR code so that people could participate and download their own prompts and do their own drawings and maybe have a way for them to share. I mean, there might be some people that draw on the wheat pasted artwork, but there may be some people that just want to do it at home with their family or with a classroom or something like that.
Yeah. Love that idea. Thank you.
Great, and Rene and Brittany, I just wanted to draw your attention to Kate's comment in the chat. It gives you some technical information on how they've removed works like this before.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kate. Appreciate it.
It's all a community of artists here. That's great. Help each other out. So I think if I don't hear any other comments, we could entertain a motion. Would somebody like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion. So I can make a motion to approve final design of Constellation de Historias by artists Rene, Dongo, and Brittany Thomas.
Great, thank you. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, so Brian makes the motion, John seconds it. I'll call off the list and say yes if you agree with the motion. Aqua?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Cara?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Kim?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. So the motion passes. Congratulations, Rene and Brittany. We look forward to seeing the work.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
We appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, for our next presentation for review and public testimony, we have Safe Passage, Amulet by artist Rhea Vedro. It will be installed at LoPresti Park, East Boston, and we're looking at final design, and Rhea will be presenting. Rhea, welcome.
Thank you so much for this opportunity to share with you. I'm going to try to stick right to 5 minutes and just give you a very quick and concise presentation today if I can. I am really excited to be with you as a Now and There Accelerator artist this year. And I am proposing a project called Safe Passage Amulet in East Boston in LoPresti Park. And this project will be part of a series. And today I'll be talking with you about a participatory hammering table, a station set up in LoPresti Park where people can add their mark to a piece of metal while setting an intention for safe passage. And then later that piece of metal will get incorporated into a larger scale metal sculpture. Next slide. So there, as I said, there will be a table set up at the edge of the sea where land and sea come together. And on the top of the table, you will have a metal panel where people will be making marks and signage inviting them to do so. Next slide. I'm an artist who is really, really interested in the idea of metal objects as talismans or amulets. And I began as a jeweler making, jewelry scale necklaces, amulets, talismans. And then as a sculptor, working more at the scale of like 3 to 9 feet. And now through the opportunities with Now and There, really thinking about what does it mean to create protective objects at the scale of the landscape. So today, I'm going to be talking with you about my proposal for LoPresti Park. And this is already kicked off. I've been doing workshops, Highs and Licks folks in East Boston with some of my collaborators, especially the Veronica Robles Cultural Center, starting back in the spring, and out at Zoomix, taking a pop-up version of this idea of hammering and intention setting for safe passage through workshops with community. Then there will be this standalone table set up in LoPresti Park, and there will be some facilitated afternoons during Eastie Week where people can also come and make their own amulet to take home, as well as set an intention while hammering on the table. And then those hammered marks from the community will get removed from the table in these metal sheets and welded into a larger form sculpture, these protective bird forms that will be installed later this year at City Hall Plaza, as was discussed at an earlier BAC meeting. And then we'll have a big community celebration and welcome back everybody who worked on the project and shared their energy and their mark making to come and celebrate. Next slide. So here is the site location, and you can see it's right along the water at this kind of wave formation, next slide, that you can access by walking up or, I think we might have skipped one, but that's okay. Yeah, so it's very accessible. You can wheelchair up, you can walk up, and the table will be right there. Go ahead, Sarah, you can advance again. Here is the location. So LoPresti Park, we've right there on the water. Next slide. There we go. And you can see the site looks right out onto downtown Boston and looking north. And for me as a metalsmith and the granddaughter of immigrants, I was really interested in this site because it used to be an area that had a lot of steelworks, shipbuilding and steelworks, as well as right in that zone with the immigrant processing stations for people coming off of boats. And so I felt a lot of resonance with this site when we visited it with our Now and There team. Next slide. So here you can see a little bit better the design. The bottom will be cast cement and it will be freestanding, weighing in around 500, 600 pounds and be brought in on a forklift and van. And then the top will be Douglas fir, almost made like a butcher block wood. And there will be these 2 welded metal bird forms on the top that are very lightweight that will be bolted down. And those echo the form that is inspiring my larger sculptures to come for City Hall. And then there's that mild steel, mild just means it's softer steel sheet that can be hammered on, and I'm hand making the mallets, which will be attached safely via braided steel cables that are reinforced with plastic, and they will have a mechanism where they can be loose on top of the table, but they can't dangle down and bang around. Next slide. There you can see a little bit better the dimensions. So I did do a walkthrough with Paul McCaffrey from the Parks Department and got his approval. And we looked at the ADA specifications for the knee height and the top of the table as well. You can approach the piece from either side, but it is really kind of designed to come up and have this framed experience on either side of you, probably just one person at a time, but it will have a 5-foot work table in front of you. Next slide. And here we get into, just to show you the texture that I'm talking about as a sample from other projects. So the mallets will make a mark that's almost looks like stitching. They're made with really small brass and steel mallets. And then I will remove those panels, both that I've been collecting from workshops I've been doing in the community, and the panel that will be bolted into the table, I'll be removing, and then I will form it and shape it, weld it together into these hollow form bird sculptures. Next slide. And here you can see again a little bit better examples of where it's going, what will happen next. These are past works of mine that are all bird inspired as well. And you can see that I'll treat the metal with different paints and waxes and rusts and gun blue, which is something that makes things black, and kind of layer in and seal the metal in such a way that it looks a little bit more bone-like or wooden. And there will be a prismatic element to play with the light at the top of the forms as well. Next slide. And this is where it's going. So there will be a large bird forms that will hold these community hammered intention set. Our community amulet will replace that kind of rectangular placeholder sculpture in this slide coming up later in the year. Next slide. And again, timeline, this is where we are. So I've already been leading these workshops and gathering metal panels and setting intentions with community members. The table is slated to go in right after July 4th weekend and be up for Eastie Week. I'll be on the calendar. I've been going to those community meetings and I will lead some facilitated pop-up jewelry making and take home amulets alongside the table during Eastie Week. And the table will be up for about a month. And then the table will be removed and I will incorporate the elements into the larger bird form sculptures in City Hall. Next slide. And that's it. So I have more details with me if anyone has questions about maintenance, etc. But thank you so much for letting me share my proposal with you.
Thank you, Rhea. That was great. I'm wondering if we can see the City Hall site again. It was hard for me to see. Is there any way we can enlarge that? Is it going inside of that sort of space?
Yes.
Okay.
So that will be under a separate contract and everything. So I didn't get too much into that for this proposal, but you can see that the footprint of that sculpture pad is about 15 by 15 feet. So
okay,
I will be creating a sculpture that works with that magnitude of space.
Okay, well, I'm sure we'll have a chance to look at it down the road. So thank you.
Thank you.
So do any commissioners have questions or comments, suggestions for this project, Safe Passage Amulet?
Just a question about signage, Rhea. Any thoughts on like possible signage that'll be at the piece?
Yes, thank you, Brian. So I did meet with Paul McCaffrey, and he and I looked at different spots where the signage could be. And actually in the slide that's up now, you can see there's these grassy banks on either side as you approach through that kind of sidewalk. So we talked about, there's also a light post to the right, kind of next to that garbage can. So we talked about different types of sandwich boards and vinyl signage that can be installed right into the grass and anchored to this light pole, as well as right when you come up on this corner, which is New Street and Sumner Street. There's another spot in the grass, and there's also like a glass bulletin board, plexi bulletin board elsewhere in the park. And there's a playground immediately to the left here too, where we talked about different places to put multilingual signage. And I hope to also create a QR code in that signage that can go to the Now and There website and link to my work and where this will all be going. And the prompt on the signage will be something to the effect of set an intention for the safe journey of a loved one or one of your own internal journeys while you hammer, and explaining where the project is going. So I believe that in transforming material, we have this miniature metaphorical experience of transforming our world. And that's what I'm hoping to accomplish by sharing this project.
Cool, thank you. Beautiful project.
Thank you.
You also mentioned that you would be at the site during certain times for people to come in and work. How often will you plan on being there, and how will you be promoting that to the communities that are close by?
The ones I know for sure are during Eastie Week, which is going to be publicized on a calendar that they're putting together for many organizations on this call tonight have been on that call, and they will be putting out a calendar. And so the table will be listed as kind of an ongoing drop by activity some of the days, and then a facilitated activity other days, as well as working with the Veronica Robles Cultural Center to help get the word out, and had some preliminary conversations with Corey DePina at Zoomix about the youth radio station, maybe also giving some attention.
Oh, nice. Okay.
I had a question.
Yes, Kim.
This is a really beautiful and thoughtful project. I always have these kind of like practical questions. I love that all these little pieces will be put together. And will people be able to visit the future sculpture and be able to actually get close enough to see like, oh, there's my piece, that I made? That's one question. The other question, of course, is a safety one, which I'm sure you've thought about with hammering and again, unfacilitated hammering, how you plan to avoid accidents. And I had one more, no, I can't remember. I had another, just a random question about, do you know anything about the foot traffic there that could give you some estimate on how many people may go by this, and therefore how many pieces may be produced over the time period that you have there? Of course, not every person will do it, but is this a busy area during the summer? I don't know. Thank you.
Thank you. Those are really thoughtful questions. So I'll try to go back from the first. Can you go back, Sarah, to the slide that shows my past work that has some of the textures and colors? I've been thinking about that too. I think the scale is going to be such that people may not be able to see their individual little sheets exactly from far away. But I'm going to use some gold leaf and some different ways to highlight the sections in which the community handiwork is existing. So kind of thinking about like bird forms, will it be like the chest heart of the bird, or like, almost third eye area beak? Like I will concentrate those sheets that have the community marks versus just mine in an area. And then I'll use a different color to kind of highlight that and then point that out in signage or on the website. So some of it will be done through, our celebration, but it will be a little bit more integrated and and holistic than like come find your name or something. And then the second question, safety. Yes. So I've thought a lot about this, and I've visited different, places where there's like cool musical projects with mallets or xylophones at scale or things like that. And what I see is it's really about, the main thing to consider is like, how is the wind treating the attachment points and creating it in such a way where it can't just like crazy swing. The mallets I'm going to be creating and making myself, and they're lightweight enough that it's not that different than if someone just picks up a rock, and anything can be a weapon if you want it to be. So they're not going to be really big, heavy mallets where you would like smash your finger by accident. You of course could try and probably succeed, but that I think won't be a major safety concern. And then the main thing I'm working on is really vetting different hardwares, that working with Bianca Mauro from BRM Productions to help me think through all of those connection points. And as I said, the hammers will kind of be secured in a way where you can lift them up and hammer, and they might sit on the surface of the table, but they can't just fall down and swing around and hit your shins. And then to traffic, I think that's a really wonderful question. I don't know the exact numbers, but I have spent days at different times of day and evening and weekends and hanging out in the park and watching and talking to people about how they use the park. And it does get really busy in the evenings and in soccer game season, and the playground is right there. If you go further to the right, it's a little more like high-risey, but right there, it's very well utilized by kids after school and people just walking around and hanging out on benches. So I anticipate swapping out the sheets probably 3 times. I could do more if I wanted, but I anticipate that each person might just make 1 or 2 little stitch marks. So to really fill and get that nice saturated mark making textures that I like, I imagine it might be like, I don't know, 70 people come and hit on it or something before I swap it out. But I might do some more watching out there. That's a really great point.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have one of those pragmatic questions too. How do you prevent people from hitting the sculptural elements instead, or is there any danger that that might happen?
Yeah, they will. I mean, I think that the length of the cords will prevent them from being able to like hit the birds or too much of the cement base, but my anticipation is that they will ding up the wood, and that's okay. It's designed in such a way that I actually think that will add a cool patina. It will look like my workbench in my studio.
I was more concerned about the birds, I guess, but
yeah, it's okay. They're steel, so they're going to be a much thicker gauge. So even if they get banged, it won't hurt them too badly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great, thanks.
Thank you.
Any other thoughts? Let me open up to our guests, the public. Does anyone have any questions for Rhea? I don't see any hands up, so not seeing any hands up, I'm suggesting that someone put forth a motion. This is a final review for Rhea's project, and commissioners, we need to vote on it. So if someone can put forth a motion.
I'll put forth the motion to approve this final review.
And do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mark. I will read out for the commissioners to vote on the project. First is Mark, since you seconded. Mark, you can go first.
Yes.
John.
Yes.
Kara.
Yes.
Brian.
Yes.
And I'm a yes also. So Rhea,
You missed Kim.
I'm sorry, Kim.
Yes.
Made the motion. I apologize. So Rhea, it is a unanimous yes for your project, and we're all excited to see it come to being. We'll look forward to it.
Thank you so much, Boston Arts Commission. Thank you now and there. I appreciate it.
Awesome.
It's rare we get to say we're excited to go hit your sculpture.
Very few projects like that. So now what's next? So we were going to take a 3-minute break because we had such a full schedule. So we're going to take a 3-minute break and we'll see you back here at 5:50. I muted myself. Okay. I'll wait another minute for folks to come back on. And can we go to the next slide? So now we'll have a presentation for review and public testimony of Raining Poetry. The artists are various, and there are also various sites across the city. This is a conversation about the final design, and the proponents are BPHC and ORS. Presenting will be Christian Arthur. Christian, are you with us?
Hello, yes, I am.
Awesome, we look forward to hearing from you.
Next slide. Okay, thank you so much, Boston Art Commission, for having me here today. My project is Raining Poetry 2022, a public art project inspiring mental health resilience. Next slide, please. So first, I should start by explaining what is Rainworks Paint. Rainworks paint is hydrophobic, meaning that it repels water. So it's otherwise clear until it gets wet or is rained on, and then the chemical pushes the water away, and an image or the words sort of appear. Here are some images as an example. Next slide. So my project is a remix of the Raining Poetry project done by the Mayor's Office of Arts and Culture in 2017. There's an example of what they did. That photo where they took poems and they used the Rainworks spray to paint the poems on Boston sidewalks. But mine is a remix. I call it that because it is focusing on mental health and recovery from substance use. So my project goals are to promote mental health resilience, reduce stigma around mental illness, and then advance racial equity as well. Next slide, please. So problem statement. COVID-19 has destabilized treatment and healthcare services for people struggling with substance use. 311 individuals died from fatal overdoses in Boston during 2020, which was the first dramatic increase since 2016. Across 2020, Bostonians reported a 22% increase in feeling depressed or hopeless several days per week, and survey respondents said drinking was associated with a downturn in their mental health. Next slide, please. Public art as public health. So I was always taught in public health school to start with a literature review, which is what I did here. So mental health outcomes associated that I believe my project will elicit. Incorporating art into urban spaces increases mindfulness of the environment and facilitates conversations between strangers, both of which are proxies for well-being. Poetry can also be a diversion from stress and stimulate reflection and new ways of thinking. And then telling stories about successful recovery can then model resilience to other audiences. Stigma outcomes. Amplifying positive stories of people with substance use disorder can be an effective way of reducing social stigma. And then lastly, racial equity outcomes. The project has prioritized painting poems in Roxbury, Dorchester, Mattapan, and East Boston, each neighborhoods containing higher populations of folks of color, according to the US Census. Next slide, please. So guiding principles for the poem selection process, which we have selected poems, so this is the process we used. The guiding principles were the more local to Boston, the better. 2, let's try to specifically lift up poets affected by addiction. 3, let's seek poems speaking to either of 2 audiences, and either the general population or the subpopulation of folks in recovery. So during our outreach, we used my office, the Office of Recovery Services, newsletter, social media. We used Mass Poetry's newsletter, and we also reached out to different literary journals in the area, as well as just arts organizations in general. And that's a list of the folks we reached out to. Our selection committee consisted of the Mayor's Office of Recovery Services, the Mayor's Office of Arts and Culture, as well as our community partner, Mass Poetry. So we had a rep from each org on our committee. Next slide, please. So we selected 9 poems in total, and here are 2 examples. The first is The Sweetest Swing in Baseball by Zeke Russell. I've told this story so many times, how David saved my life with that homer, or how I broke the curse by not giving up. It's a poem comparing David Ortiz breaking the Red Sox World Series curse to addiction and sort of breaking the curse of addiction. The second poem is Shirley Jones. Thank you, Blue Noon. I love his work too. Shirley Jones, Luke's poem, This Evening in Dorchester. A blues song came to me. My mouth opened to sing, and out floated morning glories, sun-kissed mangoes. The blues needed me to create a garden. My God, turn my tears into rain to nourish the soil. So those are 2 examples of poems selected in the process. Next slide, please. Okay, so our selection process in terms of location. So our 4 priorities were locations exposed to heavy foot traffic, 2, ensuring placement in neighborhoods containing higher population of folks of color, 3, placement near substance use treatment facilities, and 4, trying our best to match the poem content to the location. So we engaged a range of recovery and substance treatment organizations in particular, but we also reached out to some other community organizations, as well as the poets themselves, many of which were actually from Boston. So here are 2 examples of sort of how we tried to juggle our 4 priorities. On the right, you see the photos. So we're trying to put The Sweetest Swing in Baseball near Fenway. That's one example. And then the other is this evening in Dorchester by Shirley Jones-Luke, putting it next to Monadnock Garden near Upman's Corner. Next slide, please. So here's just a summary of all the locations that we selected. So in total, 9 poems, 21 locations, half are located throughout neighborhoods containing high population of folks of color, half located in highly trafficked pedestrian areas, and 3 placed next to substance treatment facilities. So this was our efforts to try and juggle our different priorities. So that is the end of my presentation. I hope the commission will approve this project. And I also welcome any questions as well.
Okay, the floor is open for commissioners who might have questions or comments for Christian. I think the project has been successful in the past. The Raining Poetry has been very well loved, so it's interesting to see it utilized in this way. Kim, you have a question or comment?
Yeah, I wasn't that familiar with, I'm kind of new. So could you just explain again how it works, since I didn't experience the last iteration of the way in which the letters are created?
Yeah, sure. So it really all comes down to this special paint, which I said is hydrophobic. So chemically, it like pushes water away, right? So the installation takes about 45 minutes. It's just 2 coats of like a spray bottle over a stencil. So I already have all the stencils, I already have all the paint. And then when it gets wet, like when it rains, the words will appear for the public. And then it lasts for about 3 months on average, just starts to degrade over time. So it is temporary. Is that pretty good?
So it's not visible until it rains?
Not visible until it rains or otherwise gets wet.
Oh, okay. And my second question was, you said that you wanted to focus half of the installations in neighborhoods of people of color. And does that correlate with the statistics of the Boston overdoses, that half of them or more, in terms of statistically with the types of people who were experiencing overdosing last year?
You know what? It more or less does. There's also a high number in the South End as well because of the concentration of social services and treatment services there. But for the most part, yes.
So like the majority of people who overdosed last year in Boston were people of color, or half of them? I mean, I don't know. I'm just interested in how.
Yeah, public health statistics. Wasn't prepared actually to really dig into that.
Okay.
I don't know. Yeah, I'd have to get back to you on that. Yeah.
So. Okay, I just thought that was motivating the breakdown. That's all. Okay, thank you.
Or maybe Christian, you could say, what motivated you to place half of the poems in communities of color? Maybe that would help.
Yeah, I mean, it came from a place of, recognition that these neighborhoods have historically been sort of underinvested in. And so I wanted to be intentional about bringing this art to those neighborhoods.
Other questions or comments? Thank you, Kim. Okay, hearing nothing from the other commissioners, is there anyone who's visiting with us from the public that would like to ask a question of this project?
Allison's hand up.
Can't see everyone. Let's see. Allison, yes, thank you.
Oh, hi, Equa. Hello, commissioners. This sounds wonderful. A couple more details, though, I would like to learn. Did you list all 9 locations? I caught the Dorchester and Fenway one, but I don't think I heard others.
There are 21 locations.
21. Oh, amazing. Okay, and how long will this last on the sidewalks?
About 3 months average.
Okay. Do you have to get approval also from the Public Improvement Commission, Public Works?
Yeah, so some of them are located on Parks property, and we've already received written sort of, affirmation that we can do that on those properties. But yes, for all the like sidewalks and those locations, we have to reach out to the PIC.
Okay, okay. And the Fenway one, the picture you showed, was that Westland Avenue and the Fenway? I couldn't quite recognize where it was.
No, it's intersection of Jersey and Brookline.
Okay, well, yeah, so that's more a touristy type location. Possibly you might want to find a, excuse me, a slightly, well, maybe one that's close by, but unless you're trying to reach just such a big crowd of people, because definitely there are a lot of crowds there, but
so I think that with this project, I really tried to do two things, and that was to, on the one hand, pick poems that could speak to the general populace, because like the general populace has mental health issues, or if anything, we can help prevent those mental health issues before they sort of happen, right? That's at the point of like resilience. But then also try and pick some poems that sort of spoke in a certain way to people in recovery. And sometimes those poems do a bit of both, I think. I think that like Zeke's poem about breaking the curse is probably applicable to a lot of people, whether or not you have a diagnosable mental illness, just like, maybe like subclinical, but definitely hard times that you're going through. So this is a roundabout way of kind of getting to the point of some of the selection choices. And it was that, yes, I thought that it was a good idea to pick some locations that just had a lot of people to just try and get as many eyeballs on this as possible. But again, like trying to strike a balance between different locations. And for example, anyway.
okay, sure. I mean, Lansdowne Street might be also a nearby place there. You'd get more people that might also relate both to the baseball and the substance abuse issue. Will there be a list somewhere of all 21 locations if someone wants to see where they all are? Or,
yeah, absolutely. And also like a map, that you can sort of access. Yeah, like a Google Maps, you can create them. That was the hope. Yeah, plan.
Okay, and that list would be where, on the Public Health Commission's site, or?
Yeah, probably the Office of Recovery Services, which is like a boston.gov subpage.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, great. I'm looking forward to it. It sounds wonderful. Thank you.
Christian, I have a question. Have you selected all of the poetry for this project?
We have selected all the poems, and we have gotten all of the stencils. Could conceivably get more, but I would have to have a whole conversation with my boss about purchasing some new stencils. If it's prohibitive, I would absolutely consider it. At least trying to have the conversation. Yeah, my boss.
And are many of the poets local people? I may have missed that in your presentation.
Yeah, so that was definitely a priority going into it. The way I looked at it was Boston, as close as possible to Boston. So if it's Boston, that's the best. If it's Massachusetts, that's a little bit worse, but not bad. And New England, yeah, was just okay. So there actually is a poet not in all those categories, and that was Kava Akbar. And I know Kava Akbar, and he's just honestly like pretty famous and well known and established in the poetry community. So I just figured like having one of his poems in here would sort of lift the project up. Yeah, but it's only one of 9.
Thank you. Anyone else? Allison, you have one more question.
Yeah, wondering if all of them are going to be with white paint, or if you might use different colors for each poem, or what you're thinking there.
So it's the Rainworks paint. So it is the color of the sidewalk that's not wet. Right? It's just dry sidewalk. That's the.
Oh, okay. really interesting then. One street you could consider too is South Huntington Avenue at Huntington. Just a thought. I live near there, so just suggesting it. Thank you.
Thank you, Allison. Anyone else?
Vice Chair, I just wanted to mention, this is Sarah, that you can see all the poems that were selected. There's a Rating Poetry's location sheet in the commissioners folders with the poems and poets that Christian shared with us.
Yes, yeah. There wasn't enough time, I think, to fit them all in, but and I'm sorry, it is you got this a bit last notice, like last week, but it's all there. Yeah.
No worries. Thank you so much for providing that.
Oh.
All right, I think that we may be ready for a motion on this project.
I move to accept final design of the Raining Poetry project.
Thank you, John, for your motion. Do we have a second on that?
I'll second that.
Okay, great. Now I'm going to try to make sure I include everyone this time around. I'm going to start with Kim.
Yes.
Thank you. Kara,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
and I am also a yes. So thank you, Christian. I think it's a great project and it has been accepted by the Boston Art Commission for installation.
Thank you very much, Boston Art Commission. Just for what it's worth, this was like a project originally started by an intern who left our office, and I kind of took it over. And I'm a person in recovery, and I've done some poetry as well, so it's not like I didn't want to do it. And it was also one that was postponed due to the whole winter that happens here. So anyway, thank you so much for hearing me and for your approval. I'm excited to make it happen for the city.
I also love that on a rainy day where some people might be affected by the gray skies, that they might come upon this beautiful surprise of a poem. I think it's lovely. So thank you.
Great to hear it. Thank you.
Okay, Mark, I think you're next.
I will take the next one. The next presentation for review is Her Glamorous Spotlight for the mural to celebrate the life and legacy of Rita Hester at 506 Cambridge Street in Alston. Karen will give us an update on the site, and then Liza will be present.
Thanks, Mark. Just very quickly, we've been working pretty diligently on this project to secure a location for the wall. There are not a lot of city-owned walls in the area, and we have been in conversation with the Hamilton Company for the location that Liza will present to you soon. And there have been some delays, but we have been working with their legal counsel and with ours, and we have reached an agreement. I spoke to Jameson Brown, the president of the Hamilton Company, this afternoon, and he told me he was planning on signing the licensing agreement tonight. So we do not have it signed as of this moment, but we are confident that we will have that resolved very soon. And with that, I very happily pass over to Liza Quinones.
Thanks, Karen. Good afternoon or good evening, commissioners. It's a pleasure to be here with you guys all again. We are excited to continue the Transformative Public Art Program with the final design presentation of Rixy's mural concept for the mural celebrating the life and legacy of Rita Hester, one of several murals that are slated for installation this summer. As a reminder, this mural project originated as a proposal by former Boston artist in residence, Golden. In 2020, Golden proposed a mural to honor the life and legacy of Rita Hester, a Black trans woman and beloved Alston community member who lost her life as a result of transphobia and anti-trans violence. The Transgender Day of Remembrance was started by a trans activist, Gwendolyn Ann Smith, as a vigil dedicated to Rita Hester and other trans individuals who died from anti-trans violence. It is observed annually across the world on November 20th. Despite her influential legacy in the LGBTQ community, Rita Hester has not been commemorated by the city as a whole. Nonetheless, community members have celebrated and honored her through vigils, events, and other community efforts demanding her story be told. This mural hopes to honor her life and legacy in the city of Boston and beyond. A very important part of the process of developing this project were the family and community engagement sessions led by Sharon Amuguni, who was the Boston Air Program Manager, and Lala Shanks, who was the consultant for the mural to celebrate the life and legacy of Rita Hester. Both Sharon and Lala were pivotal in engaging with both Rita's family members and members of the LGBTQ2+ community, including trans organizers and activists, to choose wall locations and the artist selection through numerous working group meetings. Thank you to Sharon, Lala, family members, and working group members who are here for giving your energy to this project. Rixy was the artist commissioned for this work during February's BAC meeting this year. A little bit about the artist. Rixy is from Roxbury, Massachusetts, a first-generation Latinx woman with blood roots in Honduran Garifuna and Dominican Caribeña lands, primarily a community and self-taught artist. She received her BA at UMass Boston in 2019 with a sculpture concentration for a focus in material, sensual, and spatial awareness. Her work is most translated through her public muralism, studio mix assemblages, and communal activations. They've been exhibited on street-wide and institutional spaces from her base in New England to Latin America, with continuous outreach beyond her homes. Recently, she attended the Create Wells Converging Liberations residency at Mass MoCA, a Worldwide Walls Worcester Golden Year muralist. She was a Ruth Butler Travel Fellow in 2019 and is currently a public art accelerator with Now and There's cohort number 4 and artist in residence with Elevated Thought. Next slide, please. The site for this mural is located at 506 Cambridge Street. It's in the Union Square neighborhood of Allston, where Rita Hester lived. It's easily accessible, highly visible, and adjacent to the Jackson Mann School. Upon learning more about Rita's life in Allston, we discovered that this section of the neighborhood is particularly significant, as she spent much of her time frequenting local business establishments in the area. From the Silhouette Lounge on Brighton Street to Model Cafe on North Beacon, this mural location sits along that path as prominent as Rita herself. For the development of the content and design of the mural, Rixy and our team spoke with Rita Hester's family, who shared information about Rita's life, her activism, and some of her beloved things and hobbies, such as her love for animals and poetry. Rixy also spoke with a community working group via Zoom, who shared their input on the mural design as well. I am now pleased to show you Rixy's final design that is now up for the Boston Art Commission's review, and to introduce you to Rixy, who will speak more on the elements of her work. Rixy, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you, Liza, and hello, everybody. Thank you for having me, and thank you for all being part of creating this mural and project, as well as thank you for the families that are here and present, constantly kind of giving the inspiration and push for making this happen. It's kind of hard to give notes beyond the visual, but I think a lot of what this imagery is meant for is not only spotlighting all of Rita Hester's glamour, the glory of who she is and her words, but as well as thinking of the community at a large, and what it has done to continuously kind of give roses to the whole community, which is a very small but growing community here in Boston and in Massachusetts. So to be able to input her poetry and put her vision and add all these elements that make it feel very timeless and hopeful for more folks that are continuing to be part of our communities. Thank you. Don't have more notes. I'm a very visual learner, you know?
Well, we can see a very impressive image. So thank you, Rixy, and Liza also for this presentation. It looks very powerful and incredible. So thank you. Let me open it up to see if any commissioners have some comments or questions.
I just want to say it's such a beautiful image, and I love the quote from Rita that makes it like a love letter to the community as people pass it by. I feel like it feels like she's very much communicating with the world, even though she's left this particular iteration of it. So congratulations, Rixy. It's a beautiful piece.
Thank you, Ekla.
Other comments, questions?
I can ask another question too. Will there be any inclusion of, say, a QR code that takes people to more information about Rita?
There possibly is going to be a signage. I know there's like a small section on the wall that looks like it had a form of a sign at one point. So I might just add like install signage, maybe a description and a possible QR code for sure. Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, there's a part on the bottom right that has a frame where it looks like there might have been some signage there before. And that's very much a place where we could consider a creation of a plaque to tell more about the story of the mural as well. I also would like to point out that on the slide where the mural mock-up is some of the feedback that we received from family members as well as community working group members in response to the artwork. And on today's call, we are also joined by Rita Hester's nephew, Tafik Chowdhury, and her sister, Diana Hester, as well as some members of the working group. I saw Blue Nguyen. I'm not sure if there's anyone else here. And they may also have some additional words to share with the commissioners and the public.
Would the family members like to say a word?
Yeah, absolutely. We just want to say thank you for everyone that's taken part of this and you know, making this thing come to life. You know, just viewing it when they first sent it to us, you know, it brought me to tears, even still just looking at it. You know, it's such a powerful image, and it means a lot to us as a family. And thank you. I really like the idea of using that plaque space as like, you know, a way to tell her story in addition to the rest of the photo, just so that people passing, you know, could really know, you know, who she was. And I think that would be really nice. But otherwise, it's so beautiful and everything you created, and I couldn't picture anything better. So thank you for your work.
Thank you for letting us share more on this and really being present during this whole process. I think that's what makes it mean the most for a lot of us to continue to share the story and how her family is still here and still feeling that love. So thank you for letting us grow that.
That's a tough act to follow with a very thoughtful comment from the family. But is anyone else like to make a comment?
Sure, I can make a quick comment. Thank you to Rita's family for being here. Thank you to Liza and other folks who worked on this project. And Rixy, you did an amazing job. I just want to note that this project was handled with so much care and intention, which is something that really, really, really touched my heart. And I'm sending a lot of love to Rita's family who are here. I don't know how much I can say, but I think it's about time that Boston did something to honor Rita Hester. And I'm glad that the folks who worked on it handled it with such care, with making sure that the community she was a part of was also a part of this conversation, that her family was a part of this conversation. And I really appreciate the work and effort and care that went into this project.
Thank you for saying that. Absolutely.
I see a hand up from Allison.
Yeah, hi. So emotional, really beautiful, beautiful picture. I just wanted to, very mundane topic, but knowing that the Jackson Man School is potentially getting torn down, demolished, will be under fences, whatever, just want to make sure the mural will be protected during that process. So I can see it's on a different building, but just that it will be preserved forever, hopefully. Thank you.
Liza, do you want to respond to that?
I would actually pass that over to Karen or Sarah, who
Yeah.
might be able to speak on that as well.
Thanks, Liza. So we have been in touch with Public Facilities Department and will be in continued touch with BPS, and Liza's been reaching out to the school. But we are, our understanding is that no work will be done in the next 5 years there.
5 years, okay.
But we do really appreciate that point, and we'll be putting together a deck to share with them about all of this and the process that we've gone through to make sure that they understand. And as I mentioned, Liza reached out to them, and we were also trying to connect for educational purposes.
Thank you.
Great.
I was going to say that it would be great if they could clean that wall underneath, because the piece is just glowing, but you know, these concrete buildings need some tender love and care. It'd be great if they could clean that space, so that since it's going to be, the school will be there for the next 5 years, if that's possible. I know that's not our purview, but it would be nice if that could happen.
I know on our end, like during the process of putting this, there'll be enough like priming layers and varnishes. That way it could be preserved as best as possible, especially considering the fact that construction will be happening some point after.
This has been a wonderful conversation and beautiful work of art. I hope that we can make a motion now to accept this piece. Would anybody like to have the honor of making this motion?
I would love to make a motion that we accept this beautiful piece for implementation to honor the life of Rita Hester.
I second.
Thank you. Kim, you seconded?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So I'll read down the list and say yes if you are in enthusiastic agreement. Aqua?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Cara?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Kim?
Yes.
And I'm a yes as well. So the motion passes unanimously. Thank you all for all the hard work that has gone into this incredibly important piece. Congratulations to Rixy and to the family and to all those who participated. Okay, thank you. Next up, we have the final presentation for review is the Deep Time Stories of Jamaica Plain. Sarah will begin the presentation.
Thank you, Chair. This Commission for Public Art was initiated in 2017 through the generous support of our colleagues in the Public Works Department. Over the years, the Rotary redesign was fully implemented, and the artists, Cristina, Parreño, Alonso, and Amin, Tadj, have worked through a number of design iterations to create a site-specific artwork that reflects the unique histories and communities in Hyde Square. Last June, Cristina and Amin presented to this commission for an advisory review. Based on the feedback you gave them in that meeting, they initiated a broad public conversation around their design, including several public meetings and many conversations with area stakeholders, residents, and other artists. They walked to every business in the square to introduce themselves and the project and have become a true community partner. You can see photos from their most recent community meeting on this slide. As you can see in the center image, the meeting was streamed on Instagram. I hope I'm using the right phrases. At the time of the screenshot, there were 50 plus people watching, and those people engaged directly with the artist during the Q&A, as well as the audience who was present. We are really inspired by the community engagement work that Cristina and Amin have done in this past year and hope it can provide a model to other artists that we commission. Through this community engagement process, the artists have also begun to voluntarily work with the community and in particular with the design committee of 3 Squares Main Streets to help forward plans to add more plants and green space to the square. During this presentation, you'll see some of the results of those ongoing conversations. It's important to note that designs for green space will need to follow a different process and be reviewed by other departments, commissions, and agencies. After several discussions, Cristina and Amin and I thought that providing some visual context of what the green space may be or could be helpful for you, but any depiction of green space areas in the presentation should be seen as preliminary. We know that the fabrication of the artwork will take some time, and the green space design process can take place concurrently with that fabrication. I will now hand it over to Cristina and Amin, who will present to you their final design for Deep Time Stories of Jamaica Plain.
May I just interrupt one thing? I know there's a lot of images, so I hope you guys are going to move fairly quickly through them because we have limited time. I'm an architect too. We love to throw images.
Sure,
but...
sure.
Okay, go ahead, Amin.
Yep. So next slide. So we're gonna go very fast through the slides. Probably most of the slide is just a reminder of what we have discussed previously. We presented this project. I think this is the 5th time that we are in front of you presenting this project. And Christian, do you want to talk about the general picture of the project, and I can continue after that. Cristina, are you here?
Cristina, are you there?
She's trying to talk, but
she muted.
She's not muted, but I see her speaking and trying to figure it out. So
okay, so do you want me? Yeah, I can go forward and she can join the conversation as we move.
Maybe call in on your phone.
So in general, the story of this project is we wanted to find a way of presenting the relationship between this very specific location and people that they live here through a kind of lens of this installation. And the Deep Time story is the story of the kind of very specific geological condition of this area, JP area, and very diverse community that lives in this space, in this neighborhood. Next. So the neighborhood is a very diverse neighborhood. About 65% of the businesses in the neighborhood is immigrant-owned neighborhood, and it is on top of very kind of interesting geological ground that is this conglomerate pudding stones that is as colorful as the community that lives on top of it. Next. Next. Probably I'm gonna skip in a lot of these slides because it's gonna be redundant. But the concept of this pudding stone and the presence of this pudding stone in the memory of this community and the relationship between this specific geological condition and the memory of the people living here is very present in our experience with this neighborhood. Next. The location of the project is in this Hyde Square area. Next. We divided our installation in 3 parts. In 3 locations on 3 corners of the square, both because the sidewalks are not wide enough to have a kind of concentrated art piece, as well as somehow claiming the entire square as part of the art piece, and somehow transforming the art, the entire traffic square to some public space. Next. We have 3 pieces here. Each of them, they're gonna tell a different kind of bracket of a story of this community and the geological conditions that they live in. Next. Installation 1 is the planetary and human origin, which has the longest bracket of the storytelling. Installation 2 has the relationship between the community, community and this specific location, which is much more about the story of the immigrants, people that are living here, the diversity of this community. And installation 3 is the climate hopes and concerns for the future of this neighborhood. Next. Next. Cristina.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, perfect. Great. So this is installation 1. Each of them, as Amin was explaining, concentrates on a different time scale, but all of them are trying to integrate the stories of the community and the stories of the place, the stories of the site. You know, for us, it was very important to provide a context that had to do with the location, with the rocks, as Amin was talking about, where all the stories of the community were able to take place. This first installation relates to those very, very long time timelines that relate to the Earth. And so the base, next one, next slide. Here is, this one. No, go to the next one. Let's go fast. Yes. So the base speaks about the stories of the Earth, and it talks about the geological formations, the tectonics of the Earth, and the poles speak more about the human stories. Inside the poles, there will be a series of materials that we will collect from the community through a series of workshops that again relate or integrate these two types of stories. Next. These are the dimensions. This is the tallest one. It's 30 feet tall, with a base made with concrete but resembling the tectonics of the Earth. Next. This is the way it looks in a rendering. Next. Amin?
Yeah. The second installation is about the story of the community that live or have been living here. So, next. So it's a kind of curated storytelling device. It has a kind of we wanted to preserve some of the stories as a kind of a story of the different kind of group of communities that came to this specific neighborhoods within the pipes, as well as in the base of the piece. And we are hoping that it produces a kind of dialogue around those kind of stories. Next. It has a slightly smaller, shorter height, which has much more domesticated the scale of this kind of art piece that we had in our mind. The base is slightly taller, with possible kind of seeing it as a place to sit. But mainly the story is the story of getting the community involved in participating their story within this art piece specifically. And without even during the construction, we can make the kind of workshop around this project and ask people to write the stories or even their names or their origins, and we include that in the pipes of this art piece. Next. And as you see, the way that the story somehow starts from the base, and the pudding stones are going to be a part of that base as well, and goes into the translucent pipes and become all in as one story that give the feeling of the diversity of this community. Next.
And the last installation next speaks about, so if the first installation speaks about the past of the earth, the second installation speaks about the present or the stories of the community right now. This last installation speaks about the future and the messages that we are living to the deep future. We were very inspired by plastic agglomerate, which is a new type of rock that was announced in 2014 by the Geological Society of America. And it's essentially a type of rock that is made with materials that are made by humans, specifically materials that are not degradable and that are going to last as much as rocks. So somehow the idea that we as humans are now part of the recording of this geological strata. And so here inside the pipe, what we are thinking is about collecting objects from the community as a way of leaving messages to the future. Next. Obviously, the dimensions of the base and the dimensions of the poles vary from one installation to the other in order to reflect the different lengths of time that each of them are representing or are dealing with. Next. And here, the type of image that we are thinking that it will look like something more material, very tectonic, very tactile, and in this case, the stories have a lot to do with the textures as opposed to the writings. Next.
So another scale of our time bracket that we were interested was this ephemeral feeling of the art piece when it interacts with sun and other source of lights around it, and it produces this reflection, refraction, and sense of time as part of the kind of interaction between the art piece and all other source of lights around it. Next. And this, again, as you saw in our project, storytelling is part of our project, even though that it is a device to tell a little bit different kind of, we are not celebrating a specific story by just highlighting one or two stories. We want to give a kind of different concept of a storytelling, the story of a community, not a story of a person or a story of a group of people. Next. But we started to review some similar projects that was based on the storytelling concept. And next. And we started to somehow dive into some of the kind of existing archives and storytelling books about this specific neighborhood. And next. And the toolkits that we wanted to use in this project. Next. And more importantly, the people from this neighborhood that they have done similar projects based on the storytelling device with different kind of outcome of art. We are now in a conversation with collaborating with some of these artists about the way that they have we can use their previous knowledge and experience on this kind of front. Next. And we are thinking of different types of workshops that we can generate in different part of this community to gather as many as possible of these feedbacks and stories to incorporate in this project. Next. And these are some of the stakeholders that we have had. We have the presentations and interactions with them in the past couple of years. Next. A summary of the art pieces and what is happening in the base versus what is happening in each of the pipes. Next. I think that was the last slide, or no, there is another slide. Some of the detailing of the art piece and the way that the main piece of this art piece is the stone in the base and the polycarbonate pipes that they need some structural support by this additional support of metal pipes that goes in parallel with them to the top of the art piece. And those metal pieces, we are thinking of them as reflective surfaces, so they're going to be part of the refraction of the art piece altogether. That's the end.
Okay, thank you very much. So let's open it up to any questions or comments from commissioners.
Sorry, we did it super fast because of the.
Well, it's a complex project, but we have seen it before in various forms. So I think the commissioners maybe recall some of the earlier discussions.
Cristina, I mean, thank you so much. That was great to see again. One question that I did have was in the storytelling element and the text that will be in the second installation. Have you collected that material yet, or what kinds of words, what will be written on that base?
So the base is, again, a curated text out of several stories. The artists that we are collaborating with, they have done huge amount of work on collecting a lot of stories already. So we don't want to replicate what they have done. But at the same time, we want to have some sort of community engagement workshops to get as many as possible extra stories. So far, we have not been able to get more than what we have in those archives of those artists, even though that we did probably 4, 5, or 6 presentations or workshops with the different group of people in that community. But in the end, the main kind of intent of those texts in the base is just to give a feeling of that diversity of stories, not somehow highlighting any specific stories. So we are thinking of collaboration on that front.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? How about from members of the community? Or commissioners? If Aqua, you look like you were leaning in for a question.
I just wanted to hear again about the metal poles. I think I understand what's happening there. Those are going to be supporting the, I'm not sure what the material is, the clear poles. Are they lucite or something like that? And then this this little matrix here with the circles in it are going to hold everything in place so that it can't be pulled out, or it adds stability. Am I right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I just wanted to make sure I understood that. And you said a reflective surface so that it will add to the sort of shimmery.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes. So the as you see in this drawing, there is a foundation under the piece as a whole. So the cluster going to be built and tied together and would be shipped to the site and would be attached to the foundation below. And on top of that, we're going to pour the architectural concrete or whatever final finishes that is above the ground. That's gonna cover most of those screws and base of those pipes all together and make those connections much more seamless. But after doing a lot of studies with our structural engineers, we got to this point that if we don't add this steel structure in the middle, probably those pipes, plexiglass pipes, would hit each other in the storms and kind of various storms that we might have here in, for example, every 5 to 10 years. That speed of storms gonna somehow make them wave a lot and hit each other. And imagine having that condition in the very harsh winter, and it's gonna make them break. So those steel structure in the middle gonna protect the art piece in the long terms. But as you said, yes, the surface is we want that to be part of the art instead of just something that is addition to the art. So there are reflective surfaces to be part of this refraction condition of the poles altogether.
Michael, I see you have a question, but I just want to ask one more before I turn it over to you. In terms of the care of the clear material, is that something that's also going to be affected by our harsh winters and salt and things from the street? How will you preserve that clarity on that surface over the years?
So this plexiglass gonna be coated with UV protection. It is a material that is very commonly used, for example, for bus stops and all of those urban furniture similar to bus stops. So it's not a kind of material that is we are the first time user of that. It won't have any issue in terms of the winter and this kind of thing. It might get slightly yellowish in the very, very long time, for example, after 20 years. But we were totally fine with that kind of slightly change of color because it was so subtle that won't be that much of a problem for us. And at the same time, we are covering the lower part of the the lower part of the pipes with material inside the pipes. So those areas that is possible that you get a little bit of a scratches from outside, the inside is also filled with the material. So it won't produce that much of a visual issue in the base.
Thank you.
But it is very tough material, to be honest. It's very, very tough.
Hey, Michael, you have a comment?
Michael Reiskin from Jamaica Plain. I live 2 blocks away. 2 questions. One was, well, you went through it very quickly and referred to other artists who had worked in the area. I didn't see Roberto Chow's name. There was artwork at this corner, 2 or 3 pieces by Roberto Chow, which have been removed, I think, less than 5 years ago. So you might want to reach out to him and incorporate some of whatever the history of the artwork that had been there.
Sure. Very good point.
I think actually, yeah, we actually are in contact with Roberto as well. We invited him to the last community meeting and he couldn't attend because he was in Mexico at that time, because I think he lives half year and half year, but he did attend to a meeting that we had with Hyde Square Task Force, and he saw the project and he was very excited about it, and we did talk about collaborating as well. So his photo should be definitely in that slide.
Okay, great. Yeah, I just didn't see him. And now a more logistical question. Sadly, there have been some accidents at the intersection of people coming around the rotary. And I remember 1, probably 2, had gone into, the cars had gone into the storefront across the sidewalks into the storefront of the hair salon, Ultra Hair Salon. And that's where one of your installations is. I'm trying to say you should have a high insurance rider on this, because I anticipate some automobile damage within 5 or 6 years on the artwork. That's all. Thanks.
I think it would be under our city, it's under our city policy, correct?
Yes, this artwork will be under the city's fine arts policy.
But let's ask people to drive carefully.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Seeing none, can we move for a motion?
And this is final design. Am I correct, Mark?
Yes. Ikwe, you want to put together a motion?
I guess I could. I just am curious if there's anything that we want to add to it. I could make a motion that we
There's
accept.
something about the landscape. I think that we should maybe have staff review the progress on landscape. That might be a good addition to it.
Okay. So I can make a motion that we accept the final design of this project with an additional review by staff on the landscape and how the project will be supported on those 3 strips of land in Hyde Square.
Okay, thank you, Ikwe. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, Brian. So I'll read down the list, and if you agree with the motion, please say yes. Excuse me. Ikwe?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Kara?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Kim?
Yes.
And I'm a yes as well. So the motion passes after a very long process. Thank you, both of you, for your steady work, and especially for engaging so much with the community recently. I think that's really made a big impact on the project and its meaning for those who live around that site.
Yeah.
And thank you, Sarah, also for ushering us through a long process that I think has been quite a lot for you as well.
No, it's been my pleasure. It's a wonderful project. I'm really excited to have the commission's approval on this. Congratulations to Cristina and Amin.
Yes,
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
Okay, I believe we may be coming back to the project that we had spoken about earlier. Is that correct, Sarah or Karen?
Yeah, I don't know if Matt and Felipe are still here.
I am here.
You know, I think we had a little uncertainty about whether there were sketches available. I know last week when you met with Sarah, you said you would be trying to get them, and it doesn't seem like you've been able to. I'll say again that we have heard very strongly from community members that the community outreach on this project has not been sufficient in the past. And while the murals are really beautiful, I do want to honor a lot of feedback that we got from different community groups about this project. And so I do ask that we take their concerns seriously.
Yeah, I would love to speak to that. Thank you, Karen. I firstly want to just point out that this is a separate project from Seawalls Artists for Oceans. Seawalls Artists for Oceans was a project with Pangea Seed Foundation. This is not that project. This is a new project that was brought together after a request from Boston Public Schools in East Boston reached out to us and requested that we continue the influx of murals coming to Eastie at schools. So they've asked that we bring murals to all the other schools. We have a new process with this project that is different and is an improved process based on feedback that we've received from the community from last year of what would a better process look like. So this year looks a lot different. And what was our understanding was that we had a precedent in which a mural festival in this format, in which the timelines are much shorter than a typical mural installation. This is a mural festival, and so it's difficult to work within the typical format that we're used to here. But that did work for us last year in terms of the success of the installations. I do understand there may be one group I'd love to know if there are relevant stakeholders that we can that anybody feels we have not yet reached out to. We would gladly continue our outreach, and we will share with you our process if it needs to be developed if it needs to be documented and shared further. Happy to show the community involvement in this project.
And at this time, you don't have any preliminary sketches, is that correct?
Yeah, we try to have the artists work on their sketches when they actually have an opportunity to interact with the students at the schools, which is why we don't have we don't have visual artwork yet. We are here to explain the project, share the plans, and similarly to last year, share our designs when they become available.
And I think it's also why we've carefully selected these artists and looked at their extensive trajectory, not only in their countries, but internationally as well. And now that they're making waves here and murals and fine art in the United States, I think it's important to also support these artists, especially since they want to come to our city. They feel like the quality of work here is very high, and so they want to share with us. And I think it's a great opportunity to work with them. Again, we've carefully selected these artists, and they've all have worked with students and in community projects before. And we're thrilled to have them here. And again, we understand about this process, but it's something that does require the artists to be here and integrate with the students in order to produce the artwork that we hope they can translate from their interpretation with the students. And given all the workshops that we've done for a month already, they will have plenty of subject matter to work with and be able to come up with something next week.
Okay. Cara, you have a hand up?
I think Kim had her hand up first.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, you have your hand up first.
Yeah, I see the conundrum here is that there is so much integrated community participation that you don't know what it's going to, what the image is going to look like. And so I think, I just wonder if you can build a little bit more time into this incredibly tight timeline for there to be some open forum where the sketches are maybe put like right on the wall, or something on the site for some limited amount of time, an afternoon or something, and then the community can see what it's going to look like based on what just happened, right? Which all the interactions that spontaneous, unplanned interactions that actually inspired the final drawings that are put together during the week. And with that, and I'm asking the commission too, would that satisfy any concerns that there wasn't participation in the community being able to give feedback, because they don't know what it's going to look like yet, right? But once there is something that can be put out there, is that possible?
I think it's
and I-
to be able to share once the workshops are done. Absolutely. Again, I don't know if it aligns with your timeline and with the public meeting.
I can't hear you.
Your
Lost
sound
you.
is limited. Your speaker might be covered.
Excuse
There,
me.
you're good. You're good now.
Okay. I was mentioning that there are ways we can share, but again, we really would like the artists to have their time with the students in order to develop this. I don't know if it's going to be within the timeline that you're hoping for, or that the public meetings are held, and so we can present this. But there's definitely ways we can share with the community once this process is documented.
And what would that look like?
We can do it through the schools. The schools have very actively been in touch with the parents as well. There are parents volunteers who are also working in this project. And so through the help and with the collaboration of them, we hope to reach members of the community and parents of the schools who are in support of this mural.
Mhm.
All right, you have a question or comment?
Yeah, and I think sort of similar comment. I guess I'm wondering, could the team put together like an outreach list that takes into account, the comments from last year's project? Karen put a comment here about senior center. Like, there's definitely like a whole range of other groups to reach out to, and city departments can be helpful with figuring that as well. But I sort of feel like there's just being able to see what that list is, and then what the actual plan is for updating people as a design does come together. Like, I think even if the community could see like that there's a timeline and there's a process, and like there will be, I don't know how long, but like a day or whatever it is that you can squeeze into the schedule where people can actually respond to what that image and what's coming out of like the students' artwork. Like, I just feel like there has to be something about the process that's communicated into like a pretty broad constituency. But I think like we could at a staff level review what that outreach looks like and what that process looks like. But I think it's also a question for the commission in terms of whether you all want to see those designs.
Typically we would. So that could be another option, would be to consider having a very short public meeting where we would review the designs based on the schedule. When could you get sketches, I guess, and then when do you need to start paint on the walls?
We are aiming for June 10th to have a final design. So we could.
Friday.
Yes, and June 10th is also our last workshop at the schools.
Would you have preliminary designs before that are close or heading in a direction? Like a day before that, June 9th?
I think after the final workshop.
It's possible that some of them we will. I think that, sorry, Felipe, I didn't mean to cut you off, but it's possible that I think for all of the artists except for Gleo, that is possible. Gleo is, arriving too close to, that final workshop. So I think we could speak with the other two artists about, potentially having something a day or so sooner. And if we can, have Gleo's, by the 10th, that's our goal.
Can I ask, how many students are working on each of these murals? Like, is this something that they could communicate with virtually in preparation for coming together to move things along a little faster? Because I would feel uncomfortable like voting on something that I hadn't seen any representation of. I don't know if I could do that. And I think that that's what some members of the community are saying too, not that they would try to stop the project, but they want to feel like their voice was heard and their ideas were considered. So is there anything that you could do virtually instead of in person to move it forward a little bit? So
I think that, yeah, I mean, I love that idea. I think that, for a future project that would be, a lot easier to implement. And I definitely think that there are ways in which that we can communicate we've documented a lot of the workshops with the students. So, this information can definitely be shared with Leo in advance, for example. So I love, just hearing the feedback on, how in the future we can, how we can, improve this process, especially when it needs to happen quickly for a mural festival format. Additionally, I think, as I had mentioned, I think we were under the original impression that, that we would be, there was a precedent set last year that we were able to, move forward with like sort of a soft approval prior to sharing designs publicly, before they were installed. That's why we didn't have them today. But I think what we can do is, as it was said just a few minutes ago, I think Commissioner Mark Pasnick, you mentioned maybe sharing the designs a day or so beforehand, and I think again we can with 2 out of 3 probably, but I want to just talk with the artists and confirm that. We had told them June 10th was the deadline when we would be sharing it with the schools. This is the agreed upon timeline with the schools, but I think that we can work to try to address the concerns here as best we can.
And also considering that Gleo, which is their last artist who would have her sketch last, we also have a lot of confidence in her just by seeing her trajectory and knowing that last year, for example, she led the mentor mural program at Creston Arts, which is the Creston Community High School in Creston, Iowa, who, she was also the recipient of the Abby Mural Prize. And she worked with the school and along with the...
If you actually refer to the slide deck, you can see some of the images from that
to work
project.
with students and work with youth who were having problems as well, and they were able to participate in this project. So it's a lot of community involvement, and we have full confidence in her and being able to do something just like this in East Boston.
Yeah. So this is the work of Gleo. She's a superstar in Colombia, and we're really excited to bring her up. And the students have been asking every time we go there, when they're going to meet the artists. So they're so excited to meet Griswan and Gleo. It's really special to them that we have visiting artists from Colombia, and that's exciting. So it's a difficult, it's hard work, and it's a lot of shuffling and just really working quickly to get these sorts of projects done. But we found that it's been doing an amazing thing of in East Boston, really bringing people together around public art and street art, and inspiring folks. So this is, while it's, I know, not traditional way of doing things, this is something that we've been really successful at, and we'll continue to improve the process as we continue to work with Boston Public Schools.
I think I just want to echo Ikwa's concern that we as a commission have a responsibility to review artworks before they go, and we can't pass that off to staff. It's not fair to staff. So I'm wondering if there may be the possibility of us having a very short public meeting on the 10th, or I was hoping the 9th, just because a Friday in the summer is not easy to get a quorum of us, but maybe that would be one way that we could try to, do what is our mandated responsibility, which is to review artworks before they go on city property, and also have you be able to work with the flexibility of the time frame that you have. It would have to be a very probably condensed meeting just about this one topic, but I'm wondering if commissioners might be able to commit to attending something short on that Friday, the 10th or the 9th, if you could. But it sounds like we'd want all three artists at the same time. It wouldn't make sense for us to have two sets of meetings. That's going to be even harder to get a quorum of us. But does that, other commissioners, might that be a possibility? Or I should ask Karen too, is that a possibility for us to set up? We have sufficient time to announce it and all that.
Yeah, we would have time to share that with the clerk's office on either the 9th or the 10th.
And we could make it at any time in the day, correct?
That's right.
It wouldn't have to be a 4:30 late afternoon meeting on a summer Friday.
I like that idea. And then that also means, because we'd have to notice it, that we could then follow up specifically with through other city departments and community groups to make sure that they have that opportunity. So I think that's the other thing, like we'd want to make sure that actually that connection happens. And so that would be like a pretty efficient way to do that, I think.
So we'd want to have sketches that may not be the final, but they're pretty close to the direction. And then we'd also want to report on the community engagement process that happens between now and then. And maybe that just means coordination with Boston Art Commission staff to make sure that you're not missing any groups that are important to reach out to and speak with.
Sure.
Yeah, we would. I really appreciate all this.
You're missing. Sorry.
Sorry, Felipe, you're.
I said, yeah, we would appreciate your support if there are any groups that need to be made aware of this project that we haven't reached out to yet.
Yeah, definitely. We'll, be happy to work with your office to make sure that, all relevant stakeholders in the Eagle Hill and Orient Heights areas would be, part of the conversation. So.
Great. And because it is a workshop, when is your workshop over?
That workshop on that Friday is 12:30. Well, for the Umana school, which is the school that Gleo is doing, that's the first workshop. So that's 12:30, 12:45 to just before 2. So
why don't we get back to you, but maybe we would try to aim for a 2 o'clock meeting or something like that. But we'll need to check some commissioner schedules, I would say, just to make sure that we could get a quorum.
That would be amazing. I'd appreciate it, if that's possible. I can't tell you how much we appreciate, that working with you all, working with the BAC is, so really important to us. And I really appreciate your understanding about how this project is working and seeing what we are doing with the youth in the community. So thank you for your flexibility.
Very exciting artists too. So Karen, would you be able to follow up then with commissioners via email and schedule that?
Yes, you can do that.
Okay, great.
Thank
I'll
you.
be available, I promise. Okay, thank you.
Well,
everybody.
thank you so much.
Our last action here, I think, is to well, I'd like a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion that we adjourn post haste.
Thank you, Ekwa. Do I hear a second on that?
Second.
Great. I will read off and everybody should say yes. Ekwa?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Cara?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Kim?
Yes.
And I'm a definite yes too as well. So thank you everybody for an extended meeting, good conversation and some great art that's coming our way.
Congratulations,
Thanks.
everyone.
Have a good night, everybody.
Good night.
Thank you, everyone.